Hello everyone, welcome to today's class, and our title today is New Information About Mystery Man. Let's look at language focus. 1번. Other than that, he could barely speak. Very simple today. I think this is going to be a very short lesson. Other than that, he could barely speak. Barely is what I have highlighted today. Now, we use barely to express that somebody is almost unable to do something. Almost unable to do something. So, barely, 간신히, 경우, 빠득하게, 거의 아니게. Barely. So, let's look at our first example. Could you speak up? I can barely hear you. 크게 말씀해 주시겠어요? 거의 들리지 않습니다. I can barely hear you. Kuros barely passed the test. Kuros는 간신히 시험을 합격했습니다. Barely. I guess people get confused with rarely. So because we have time, let's go rarely versus barely. Rarely doesn't happen often. And barely is, like it says here, almost unable to do something. Alright, moving on to 2번 now. The Duke of Baden had a son who supposedly died shortly after birth, but conspiracy theorists believe that baby was Caspar. So I have highlighted supposedly. So use supposedly to imply that some reported information might not be reliable. So supposedly 보고된 정보가 신뢰성이 덜해질 때 쓰인다나. Let's have a look at the examples. Heinrich is supposedly going to pay the money back, but I'll believe it when I see it. Heinrich가 돈을 값을 거라고는 하는데 직접 봐야 믿을 수 있을 것 같습니다. So Heinrich must not be a very reliable person. And the next one, Chuck and Janet are supposedly just friends, but they seem like a couple. Chuck이랑 Janet은 당시 친구 사이라고 하지만 둘은 연인처럼 보인다. So they're supposedly just friends, but they look like they are a couple. Alright, now let's look at the language focus quiz. 1번. I barely understood what was talking about. Remember, barely, 간신히, 겨우 빠득하게, 거의 아니게. So I barely understood what was talking about. I barely understood, let's say, what did I prepare? I barely understood what the professor was talking about. 저는 교수님이 무슨 말을 하는지 거의 알아들을 수 없었습니다. So I barely understood what the professor was talking about. 2번. I barely made it to on time. Let's say work. 간신히 제 시간에 출근했습니다. Keep it simple. 3번. Is supposedly going to but I don't believe it. Let's say Jane is supposedly going to the party, but I don't believe it. Jane은 파티에 간다고 하는데 저는 그걸 믿지 않습니다. 4번. Is supposedly the best in Let's say Gino's is supposed to be the best pizza shop in Seoul. Okay, Gino's는 서울 최고의 피자 가게라고 합니다. Alright, now let's look at the further discussion. 1번. Have you heard of any stage attacks or incidents in your country? What happened? 당신의 나라에서 계획된 공격이나 다른 사건에 대해 들어본 적이신가요? 무슨 일이 있었나요? Not in Korea, no. But there was a very famous American actor, I think his name is Jesse Smollett, who staged an attack on himself in order to get some sort of attention. So this is what I heard. I can't remember the exact details, but this very famous actor at the time, he was in a very famous show, and he was supposedly not losing a lot of fame. He wasn't becoming, he wasn't getting spots in new shows or movies or whatever. So in order to get attention, he hired two people to attack him and say like racist things towards him. But everything turned out to be a lie. Everything turned out to be staged. And he actually went to court about this. And now he made his life a lot worse than it was before, because now he definitely doesn't get any jobs. But that's not in my country. That was in America. 2번. Although the story of Caspar Hauser is unusual, it happened a long time ago. What do you think people have remained so interested in? 캐스퍼 이야기는 특이하고 오래전에 일어난 일이긴 하지만 사람들은 왜 이 이야기에 여전히 관심을 갖고 있다고 생각하세요? People love a mystery. Everyone loves a mystery. Everyone likes to hear about like mysterious things, like especially if someone goes missing, if there's a murder, if there is some sort of unusual happening. Everyone is somewhat interested in that. They want to know who the murderer is. They want to know what happened to that person. If someone goes missing, even though we don't have any connection to them, we want to know, hey, are they okay? Or what happened to them? This reminds me of another story that happened in Australia, where this man couldn't be identified for... I think we actually covered it on this show, on this News and Stories, that this man was found on a local Australian beach. He had zero identification. People couldn't identify who he was. It went on for years and years and years and years, and finally they found some sort of information. But it was a story that people were interested in, especially in Australia, for a very, very long time. So these kind of stories fascinate people. They strike people's interests. What was the word we used before? In the intrigue, they intrigue people. I think this is the reason why people stay so infatuated with something for so long, is because when we don't know the answer to something, it stays in our mind. Anyway, that wraps it up for today's class, and I'll see you on the next class.
Intrigue.
Intrigue.
Rule out.
Rule out.
Prominent.
Prominent.
Error.
Air.
Fibber.
Fibber.
Stage.
Stage.